my God. I come to you not from the bottom of the pit, for I have climbed out of there so many times. I come to you from the edge of the pit, looking down into the darkness I already know, and with no strength to walk away or to jump in for good. I come to you from the starting point. Again, the same starting point that has seen me exhausted, that has seen me hopeful, that has seen me determined, and that now sees me empty. Lord, I can't bear to start over anymore. The word new beginning, which for so many sounds like hope, like a new chance, has for me become synonymous with torture. It is the promise of a new cycle of effort that will inevitably end in this same place of desolation. It is the first page of a book I have already read and whose tragic ending I know by heart. I have become an expert in starting over. I know exactly how to pick up the pieces, how to patch up hope, how to draw a new plan on the ruins of the previous one. But expertise has not brought me wisdom. It has brought me a soul fatigue that paralyzes me. You have seen every one of my attempts. You saw when I said, "This time will be different." I believed it, Lord. With every fiber of my being, I believed it. I prayed, I planned, I worked with twice the effort. I corrected past mistakes. I asked for advice. I was humble. I was bold. I built my house again, brick by brick, on the rock I thought was your will. And once again, I watched the storm come and take it all away. Not one stone was left on another. And here I am, sitting in the rubble, no longer crying with the fury of the first or second time, but with the resigned silence of one who was already expecting it. My heart no longer breaks with the surprise of the fall, but with its certainty. It's a vertigo, Father, an existential dizziness from living the same scene over and over like a nightmare from which I cannot wake. What do you want from me in this cycle? What is it about this starting line that I so need to learn and am unable to see? If it is a lesson about humility, I already feel humiliated to the dust. If it is about dependence, I no longer have any strength of my own to rely on. If it is about perseverance, mine has already become stubbornness, a morbid stubbornness that only prolongs my suffering. People look from the outside and say, "Don't give up," but they don't understand. Giving up today does not seem like an act of weakness to me, but of sanity, an act of self-preservation. Like the animal that, after struggling for hours in a trap, finally lies still. Not because it has lost the will to live, but because it has realized that every movement only tightens the knot. I feel the knot tightening around my soul, Lord, and my instinct is to stop moving. I look to the future and I don't see a path, I only see a repetition of the past. The energy that a new beginning requires, the faith, the optimism, the vision, has been spent. My reservoir of hope is dry. To try again would be like trying to light a fire with wet wood in the middle of a storm. It would be a futile, pathetic effort. And I no longer want to be pathetic in my own eyes and in yours. I prefer the dignity of stillness to the humiliation of another failed attempt. Forgive me if these words offend you, but they are the only truth I have left. My prayer today is not that you give me strength to try again. My prayer is that you give me permission to stop, permission to rest, permission not to have to be strong, not to have to be resilient, not to have faith. Can I stay here, on this ground of failures, and still be yours? Can I simply be still, without plans, without dreams, without movement, and still count on your love? Because the truth, Father, is that I don't want another new beginning. I want an end to this cycle, an end to this repetition. I long for a period, not another comma that forces me to continue the same painful sentence. If to get off this carousel of frustration I have to stand still here forever, so be it. Paralysis in a known place is better than the exhaustion of running in circles and always returning to the same point of pain. So my plea today is this, the strangest I have ever made to you. Please, Lord, do not ask me to start over. Do not show me a new door. Do not give me a new idea. Do not ignite in me a new hope that I know will be extinguished. Just let me stay here in the silence of my rubble. And if your love is as great as they say, sit here with me, not to convince me to get up, but just to keep me company in my refusal to walk. It is all I can ask. It is all I have left. And in this silence that follows my request, in this stillness where I refuse to move, I imagine you sitting beside me. Not with a look of disappointment, but with a silent, heavy compassion. And now that you are here, now that I am not shouting to a distant sky, but whispering to someone who is close, my questions change. They are no longer cries of why, but murmurs of, for what? For what purpose is all this, Lord? What is the glory in seeing me fail repeatedly? What kind of lesson is learned in the repetition of pain to the point of the student's total exhaustion? If your goal was to teach me to let go of control, I no longer have anything in my hands to hold. If you wanted to break my pride, it has already been ground into the dust on which I sit. If you wanted to forge my character, don't you see that? The metal is already cracked, fatigued from being heated and hammered in the exact same spot. There is a limit to how much a soul can endure before it loses its shape, before it becomes unrecognizable. And I am at my limit. I no longer recognize myself. I remember who I was, Father. I remember the young man who threw himself into your plans with a fire in his heart. For him, the word new beginning was an adventure. Every fall was a step up. Every mistake a lesson. Where is he? I mourn for that person I used to be. I cry for him more than I cry for my failed projects. Because projects can be remade. But the innocence of a faith that has never been betrayed, by experience, that does not return. You took that zealous young man and put him through this meat grinder of failure cycles, and what came out on the other side is this shell of a person, cynical, tired, suspicious even of your goodness. Was it I who became corrupted on the way, or was it the way that corrupted me? I look at you sitting here beside me, and I ask you with an honesty that tears my soul apart. Was this your plan for me? To turn me into this? Therefore, my greatest fear today is not failure. Failure and I are old acquaintances. We share the same table, sleep in the same bed. My greatest fear, what causes me to panic, is a ray of hope. I am more afraid of your hope than of my own despair. Because despair is a quiet place, an end, a state of paralysis that, being so painful, becomes numbing. Hope is not. Hope is a goad. It is your finger poking at my wounds, calling me to get up, whispering, try one more time. Hope is the invitation to feel the sharp pain of the attempt, the anxiety of expectation, and the final stab of disillusionment. And I no longer want to be invited to this banquet of suffering. So when I feel a spark of optimism, I run in the opposite direction. I extinguish it with the heavy blanket of the memory of all the other times. I protect myself from hope as one protects oneself from a predator. It's madness, I know, to protect oneself from the only thing the world says can save us. But the world does not know my cycle. Only you know. And because only you know, only to you, can I make this request that is born of this new understanding. I said I didn't want to start over, and I stand by it. I do not want to start over. I do not have the ability, the energy, or the will. My willpower, which was once my greatest asset, has become my greatest enemy, the tool I used to hurt myself time and again. So, my prayer evolves. It is no longer, let me stay on the ground. It is something deeper. It is, if any movement is to happen, it cannot come from me. If any house is to be built, it cannot be with my hands. If any step is to be taken, it cannot be with my feet. My surrender is no longer passive. It is a request for radical divine action. I no longer ask you for strength to walk. I ask that you carry me. I no longer ask you for a new map. I ask that you become the path itself beneath my feet. I no longer ask you for a new plan. I ask that you be the plan, the architect, the builder, and the resident. I abdicate my position as the main actor in my own life. I give you the role. I don't want to be your co-pilot. Take the pilot's seat and let me sleep in the back, because I am too tired to even look at the road. Let the next new beginning, if it exists, not be my new beginning with your help, but your beginning through me. Let it not bear the mark of my energy, but the seal of your sovereign power. May I not feel the burden of having to sustain it, but the lightness of being sustained by it. This is the only way. Anything else will just be another turn on this infernal carousel. Take the control from me, Lord. Please, before I use it to destroy myself for good. And in giving you control, Lord, a silence different from all others settles in my soul. It is not the heavy silence of your absence, nor the resigned silence of my defeat. It is an expectant silence. The silence of the passenger who settles into the vehicle, trusts. The driver, and for the first time, stops trying to read the map or offer suggestions about the way. It is the stillness of a field that, after being plowed and tilled to exhaustion, finally rests under the sky, simply waiting for the seed that is not its own, for the rain it cannot produce. I no longer feel the frantic need to do something. The crushing weight of responsibility for my own future, a weight I carried for so long, has been lifted from my shoulders. And in its absence, I feel a lightness that scares me and relieves me in equal measure. I do not know where we are going, but I know that I am not the one driving, and that, in itself, is the beginning of a healing. In this stillness, a new clarity begins to emerge, as painful as sunlight to the eyes of one who has lived long in the dark. Perhaps the problem, Father, was not in my inability to start over. Perhaps the problem was in my stubbornness to always restart the same story, expecting a different ending. I was trying to resuscitate a corpse, giving mouth to dreams that you had already let die. I was asking you to bless my necrophiliac hope, my insistence on not accepting the end that you had already decreed. What pride! What foolish arrogance of mine to think that my determination could be wiser than your sovereignty. I wanted so badly to prove that I was capable of winning on that specific ground, of building that exact castle, that I turned my dream into an idol, and I sacrificed my peace and my sanity on its altar. So today, I do what I should have done a long time ago. I hold the funeral for my old new beginnings. Before you, I give you the dream of being successful in that specific career that exhausted me. I place in the coffin the need to restore that relationship that you clearly showed was not meant to be. I renounce the image of myself that I tried to project to the world, the image of someone who is strong, resilient, and unshakable. It is all dead, Lord, and I ask you, bury them so deep that I never again have the temptation to dig them up. Cut the tethers that bind me to these pasts, so that I am no longer a ghost haunting my own cemetery of failures. Free me, not from my circumstances, but from my own stubborn expectations. Empty me, Father. Empty me of me. And once I am empty, completely devoid of my own plans and ambitions, then I ask you, start something new, but not a restart, a start. Something that has never existed before. Something that has your signature from the very first stone. Do not help me mend my old life. Create in me a new life. Do not show me how to go back to the old path and do better. Take me to a path I have never seen, a narrower path, perhaps more difficult, but let it be your path. I no longer ask for a happy ending to my story. I ask to be a character in your story, even if my role is small and discreet. The honor is not in the size of the role, but in the glory of the author. I know that this new way of life terrifies me. The world values action, initiative, proactivity. And you are calling me to stillness, to waiting, to holy passivity. What will others think? How will I explain this inertia of mine? The fear of being seen as a failure, as someone who gave up is real. But the fear of taking another turn on the carousel of exhaustion is greater. Therefore, I choose the fear of the unknown over the certainty of familiar pain. I accept this season of silence and waiting. I commit to not moving a muscle, to not making a decision, to not starting a project, until your direction is as clear as the midday sun. Teach me the art of waiting on you. Teach me to discern your voice amidst all the noise. Tune my ears to your whisper so that I am not moved by the thunder of my own anxieties. I will stay here, on the floor of my desert, and I will wait for you. I trust that even in the stillness you are working. I trust that in the silence you are speaking. And I trust that in my end, you are preparing a beginning that is entirely yours. And in this waiting, Lord, in this inaction that to the world is failure, I find the healing that no frantic activity ever gave me. My rest is not laziness. It is an act of faith. My stillness is not apathy. It is an act of worship. By stopping the fight, I finally created the space for you to work. While my hands were moving, yours were tied by my interference. While my voice was shouting my own plans, I could not hear your whisper. Now, in the silence, I begin to perceive the melody. Now, in the immobility, I begin to feel your gentle touch, reordering the pieces of my soul. The healing was not in the next new beginning, but in the courage not to restart. The victory was not in the next success, but in the total surrender of my need for success. I used to measure my days by my productivity, by the checklist of tasks I could complete. And every day ended with the frustration of what was not done. Now I am learning to measure my days by your peace. A day when, despite the circumstances not having changed, my heart remained quiet in you. That was a day of resounding success. A moment when, feeling the old anxiety bubbling up, I chose to breathe and hand you the control instead of running to the phone or the computer to fix it. That was a moment of victory. You are changing my definition of life. Life is not a series of projects to be executed, but a continuous conversation with you. It is not a ladder to climb, but a garden to cultivate, where the most precious fruit is communion. And the old fatigue, the chronic exhaustion of new beginnings, begins to dissipate, not because my strength has been renewed, but because I have stopped using it. I am learning to live from your strength, to move from your impulse, and that changes everything. The fear of the future diminishes, because the future is no longer my responsibility. The anxiety about results disappears, because I am no longer attached to them. I trust that the results are in your hands, and that they will serve your purpose, whatever it may be. This is true freedom, Father. The freedom of not having to be the God of my own life. The freedom of simply being a child, loved, cared for, and guided. I spent years trying to be the architect, the builder, and the hero, and all I got was exhaustion and ruins. Now I accept my true role, to be the clay, to be the canvas, to be the instrument. And in this acceptance, I find a purpose and a dignity that none of my achievements ever gave me. And now, in a way I did not expect, the idea of a beginning no longer terrifies me, because I know that the next beginning will not come from me. It will not be me gathering my last energies to take another turn on the carousel. It will be your sovereign hand opening a door that no one can shut. It will be your spirit breathing life into something that you yourself have created. And because it will come from you, it will be sustained by you. It will not be my burden, but your project. and I will be a grateful participant, not an anxious manager. So, my readiness has changed. I am no longer ready to fight. I am ready to obey. I am no longer ready to plan. I am ready to follow. My hope has been reborn, not as a tall, unstable flame, but as a small, steady ember, warmed by your breath, protected in the center of my being. A hope that is not in tomorrow, but in you, who are the owner of all tomorrows. And so, Father, I thank you. I thank you for every closed door that forced me to stop. I thank you for every failed plan that taught me to let go. I thank you for every painful new beginning that led me to exhaustion, because it was only in total exhaustion that I finally surrendered. Your method was severe, but your love was faithful. You allowed the complete demolition of my self-sufficiency so that you could build in me a dwelling place for yourself. I do not know what comes next, and for the first time in my life, I am at peace with that. I do not need to know. I only need to know you. My new beginning, the true and only one that matters, is this: to rest in you. And from this rest, and only from it, I know that you will make all things new, in your time, in your way, and it will be perfect. Amen. Amen.